Imagine this. Imagine you're a law enforcement officer serving your community, and all you want to do is buy a home to provide for your family. Yet, the local credit union down the road tells you you don't qualify. You don't qualify because they say you don't make enough. However, you know darn well you earn enough income. You just had some extenuating circumstances that are highly unfortunate that should not be holding you back. Yet, some other financial institution is holding that against you, and you're told no. Yet, someone else comes in, tells you yes, and gets you into that new home in just 2 weeks. That's the real world, y'all. That's what it's like being a national powerhouse mortgage lender, protecting and serving the community that you live in. And that is today's scenario in this episode of Talk Mortgage to Me. Check this out. On this edition of Talk Mortgage to Me, back by popular demand, I have my friend from Massachusetts, Kayla Tarabay. She's with Novus Home Mortgage. And the scenario that I just described is an actual loan that Kayla and her team have recently funded. It was for a law enforcement officer who had gone to his credit union to obtain a home loan for a home that he wanted to buy for his family and was told no, basically was denied. Yet, as we sit here today and you tune in, I promise you that police officer is sleeping well in his new home. So Kayla, walk us through what was the scenario, why was he told no, and more importantly, what were you and your team able to do to turn his no into a yes?
So I got a call from my realtor partner, and she was really stressed out. And she was like, we're in contract. We have 2 weeks to close this. There's no extensions that can be needed. Like, I need this closed. Can you do it?
So if you didn't close, what would happen?
They would have backed out of the contract, and the buyer would have been homeless.
Yeah, so the buyer would have lost the home,
Yep.
and more importantly, lost any money that they put into the home for
Correct.
things like home inspections,
Yep.
appraisals, and potentially their deposit.
Correct.
Do you remember roughly how much money they put down as a security deposit, aka an earnest money or escrow deposit?
$10,000.
Okay, so imagine this. Imagine you have $10,000 as a security deposit. In the mortgage industry, we call them escrow or earnest money deposits. And if your bank or your credit union or your lender or your mortgage broker doesn't perform, not only will you not get the home, not only are you out the money that you paid for things like home inspection and appraisal, but there's a chance the seller may keep your 10 grand.
Correct.
And that's the phone call you got.
That is the phone call I got.
Okay. And how did you respond to that phone call?
I said, send it over.
You said send it over.
I said, send it right over. I'll get it done.
Okay. Like, let me take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your, you have a little saying, a little phrase. What is it?
When your lender says no, I say, let's go.
When your lender says no, you say, let's go. And,
Yes.
and the realtors who refer you, your past clients, they all know this about you.
Correct.
Okay. So then what did you see when they sent over the deal, as we call it, which is basically a human being with a credit score and an income and debts and assets and certain financial needs, wants, and goals? When all of that came over to you, what did you see?
I had the actual initial conversation with the borrower, and based on the initial conversation, I was like, well, this is a slam dunk. I said, this isn't going to be hard at all. And then, of course, when I got the application in, he has variable income because he's a police officer.
Okay, so variable income is not unusual. I mean,
Correct.
You have a client who's a butcher at Costco with variable income.
Yes.
We've done loans for nurses that have variable income.
Yes.
Heck, if you are a truck driver or you work big machinery, there's a good chance
Yeah, variable income.
you have variable income. Okay, so it's common for police officers to have variable income, and this one did.
Yes.
And what is, just for those that don't know, for the police officers, what was variable income?
They have detail shifts where they're outside. They have overtime. They have holiday pay, leave pay. They have all kinds of income that we have to calculate.
Yeah, it's not just their 20 or the $30 an hour, because you may make more money if you're parked on the side of the road
Yes.
on a Sunday night so that the construction crews can fix the turn lane on I-95.
Correct.
Okay.
So based on what I was looking at, we found that he had started this job. It was like a year ago or a little less. I don't know if it was a little over or a little less than a year ago. So I needed to get his prior verification in order to calculate his income.
Okay, because when you're qualifying for a home loan, it's good to know that we typically are looking for what has your income been average of the past 2 years.
2 years.
Now, in a straight salary, it's pretty easy.
Correct.
But few people are straight salary. People get
Correct.
bonuses, they get commission, They have variable pay, or even, I say worse, hourly workers, right? It's not always 40 hours. It could be 36 hours. It could be 39 hours. And there's a certain mathematical formula that we have to follow to calculate that income.
Yes.
So because you have a borrower, in this case a police officer, who has variable income, it's not like you're going to look at his hourly rate, multiply it by 40, and that's his income.
Correct.
Because I know cops down here in Florida, many of them work 12-hour shifts. So 1 week it's like 36 hours, 1 week it's like 48 hours.
Correct.
So even that pay stub's going to look a little bit wonky, especially when you start adding in Sunday pay, holiday pay, nighttime pay, hazard pay, SWAT team pay.
Correct.
Right? All of those things.
All of those things.
Okay, so you're doing your job and you recognize variable income requires me to look at a 2-year average.
Correct.
Okay, what happens when you look at your two-year average?
Well, so his prior job, luckily, they had already done a verification of employment for the company that said no.
Okay.
So they sent it right over, which is not, to call a town hall and get it that day is extremely rare. So that was really fast. However, when I noticed his current pay, I noticed his year-to-date was low. So I asked him, based on our conversation, did you have any leave? It didn't seem like that. And he said, yeah. He said, unfortunately, our chief passed away and I had to take a 3-week leave. Okay, awesome.
Mandated.
Well, that's not awesome. Yes, mandated.
Yeah, correct. It's sad that the chief passed
Correct.
away. And you talked about that was actually a big story
Correct.
in your local market because
Yes.
he was on the side of the road trying to help a distressed vehicle.
Correct.
And was actually hit by another vehicle.
Correct.
But when that happened, then certain people on his shift were then forced, typically for mental health purposes,
Correct.
to go ahead and take 3 weeks off.
Correct.
So when your client, this home buyer, we call them borrowers in the mortgage industry, when he's trying to qualify for a home loan, you're looking at his year-to-date pay, and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't jive. Like,
Correct.
this isn't adding up. You tell me you make X, but when I look at what you've made year-to-date and I divide it by however many months have already passed, you're actually making less than that.
Correct.
Okay, so he had a gap. He had 3 weeks of unpaid leave.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the craziest part about that situation is there's no paperwork with that. It's at your commander's discretion or your chief's discretion. So they can just say it. So we had to get...
Wait a minute. Like, I come to work and I'm told, hey, Lieutenant so-and-so or Officer so-and-so, we're going to go ahead and have you take the next 3 weeks off. We want you to decompress. It was a traumatic, emotional event. And they just say, okay, cool. When do I report back? But there's not really paperwork that's being followed.
There's not paperwork, but they still get paid, but it's not as much. I think it's like 60% of their pay.
Yeah, which would be kind of similar to someone who was on like long-term or short-term disability.
Correct.
Right? So basically, within the law enforcement world, there's a way for you to be forced to take time off.
Yes.
You will get compensated, but not at all of your pay, at 60% of your pay.
Correct. I
Okay.
don't know if that's everywhere, if it's just Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably even county by county, township by township. I'm sure if you're with the sheriff's department versus a local city versus working for like the state police, they all probably differ.
Yeah.
But it's just a reminder that, it's different and unique, but it's not foreign.
Correct.
Okay. So what did you have to do? Because obviously now you're probably running into a brick wall yourself.
Yes. So in the middle of all this, we only have 2 weeks to close it. There's a massive snowstorm. It delays the appraisal we have to order. There's delays. And that town hall was also closed because we were just going to emailed the town hall to say, hey, can you just write an explanation for that with his year-to-date income and what he makes, X, Y, and Z, his verification of employment for his current job. So we ended up getting it the Monday before we were supposed to close on Friday. And it ended up matching up to a T. I think we were at a 49% back end where we were able to do it.
So for people living at home, that's your debt income ratio. So Kayla's telling me they had a 49% debt income ratio. Normally, if you have good credit with the right automated underwriting waivers, we can typically get approvals up to about a 50% debt income ratio, and you're at a 49. However, you needed to use the full income. And if you could not justify the 3 weeks of him making less, most mortgage underwriters will probably look at you and say, Kayla, he's not making the income you tell me or you state that he is.
Correct.
All you had to do is go the extra step and document it.
Yes.
And did you document it just with a letter of explanation from the police captain, or like how did you end up getting the right documentation to move forward with the loan?
I believe we had his contract, so
Okay.
it does state that they are allowed to take leave, and I believe we had an explanation with the verification that they can do that. I just don't know if it was.
Okay.
I don't think it was an actual paperwork saying you get paid this if you're told to leave work for X amount of time.
Yeah, but you're able to get the contract.
Correct.
You're able to explain the situation.
Yes.
And then you're able to document there's a reason why the income isn't adding up.
Yep.
However, this is, and these are words that we use in the mortgage industry, extenuating circumstance.
Yep.
Meaning we don't predict there to be another incident like this, at which point the borrower, the home buyer, is going to take 3 weeks off and only earn 60% of his pay.
Yep.
In fact, his contract says he's going to make X per week, per month, per year, however they pay. And that's the income that you needed to qualify, and that's the income that your underwriter was able to let you do.
Yes, and then I had another curveball.
Uh-oh.
I did. So
All in 2 weeks, by the way.
Yes, all in 2 weeks. The borrower didn't want to pay 5% down. They wanted to pay 3% down. And unfortunately, every time I ran our automated underwriting system, which is called AUS, I was getting a refer with caution.
Which is not good, by the way.
Which is not good. With a 3% down because he didn't have a lot of credit.
Okay.
So, I mean, he had great credit, but he didn't have a lot of...
Correct. Yeah, his credit score was good, but his body of credit was a little bit lacking. A lot of that has to do with sometimes age.
Yep.
Right? If you're just not old, you haven't had a whole lot of life experience, like how much credit have you really been able to borrow?
Yep.
However, lenders look at not just your credit score, but also your body of credit. I used to teach this. I would look, a 780 credit score with one trade line that's only been open for 6 months. Like that would be like looking at some jacked up dude who is riddled with cancer on the inside because he's been abusing drugs, but he looks really good on the outside.
Right.
Right? Whereas we would rather have somebody that doesn't look all jacked up, but they're super healthy in terms of their lungs and their heart and their liver and their kidneys because they exercise daily. Right? That person might not look the part, but their experience is one in which they're healthy.
Yes.
Same thing happens with home buyers and mortgage borrowers.
Yes, and the funny thing, well, not funny thing, but so he was a borrower who had credit for a long time, but every time he had a credit card, he'd shut it down when he was done with it. So it didn't look like he had a long age of credit history. So I told him, I said, do not close your credit cards anymore.
Yeah,
keep them at a zero balance. But
that is such a misconception. And I can't blame the consumer. They think they're doing the right thing.
Correct.
But then when they come to professionals like us, we're like, no, you're kind of actually working against yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
But you got a loan closed in 2 weeks. So there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, most transactions take on average 30 days. And what a lot of home buyers and actually even real estate agents don't remember or even recognize, we as lenders can only control so much.
Correct.
But there's the things that we can't control. This guy's a cop. We need to verify income through his township. We can only work as fast as the township is willing to work. If you had to verify income from the IRS, we're only as quick as the IRS.
Correct.
Right? If we can't get to work because 4 feet of snow have been dumped on Massachusetts, we can't get to work. I mean, there's nothing we can do to work around acts of God. However, kudos to you and your team because you turned a no into a yes. You got it done in record time while dealing with a snowstorm, as well as any other curveballs that this situation or any other would throw at you. Kayla, if people have a situation similar to this one, or they have questions regarding getting a home loan or qualifying for financing, I know you said that you lend in all 50 states. What's the best way for someone to reach you or reach out to you?
I always say to call me on my cell phone. I always answer the phone or at least a text message if I can't. My number is 508-963-0437.
That's 508
963
963
0437.
0437.
And I also tell everybody to follow me on my social media accounts. They can always get in touch with me, message me there, or learn about different programs, products, whatever we have on there.
Yeah, you have really good content on your Instagram. What's your content? Or what's your Instagram handle?
It's Kayla_home mortgage.
Kayla_home mortgage.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. On Facebook?
Just Kayla Tarabay.
Kayla Tarabay. She's Kayla Tarabay with Novus Home Mortgage. I'm Dustin Owen. You just tuned in to another episode of Talk Mortgage to Me. If you have questions, do not hesitate to use the comments, to reach out to Kayla, or follow the link in the description, and one of us will be more than happy to get you pointed in the right direction or even solve your specific needs. Kayla, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.